Okay, got another problem for you to work on. So after I go through the directions, I'm going to have you pause the video and try to answer these questions. It's basically 3 questions. I want you to draw a function whose domain is just the open interval from 1 to 2. Remember, these parentheses mean that 1 and 2 are not included in the domain. Okay? And I want you to draw me one function with that as its domain that doesn't have an absolute max or an absolute min. Then I want you to draw me one that has both an absolute max and an absolute min. And then I want you to draw me one that has an absolute max, but not an absolute min. Okay? So pause the video, see if you can come up with an example for each of those things. Welcome back. Okay, so here's my interval from 1 to 2. I'm going to draw one with no absolute max and no absolute min. That's about the simplest thing I can think of right there. I'm going to start at what would be a high point if there was a point there, but because there's not a point there, it doesn't count as an absolute max. I'm going to end at what would be a low point if there was a point there, but there's not, so it doesn't count. Now, if you had something that curved in between, that's fine, but basically where you would have the biggest point or the lowest point would be these endpoints which aren't included. Now, if I wanted to draw something that has both an absolute max and an absolute min, I can't now put that at the endpoints because those points aren't included. So I'm going to start here, I'm going to end here, but I'm just going to go up and then come down. So now that's the highest point, and it is a point, not a hole, and that's the lowest point, so we have an absolute max and an absolute min. And if I want an absolute max but no absolute min, I'm going to just sort of combine the two ideas. I'm going to go up to a max, but come down to what can't count as a min because I don't actually have a point there. All right, now this was all on an open interval. If I'm working on a closed interval, let's say I wanted to work on the closed interval from 1 to 2. On a closed interval, I can certainly draw something that has no absolute max and no absolute min. However, if I require that my function be continuous, I can't. The way I would get around having an absolute max and an absolute min would be something like this. I could have a function that was not continuous. Now I wanted these points to be in the domain, so I'll just put some points there. Okay. Now that has no absolute max and no absolute min because I put holes where they would have been, but that's also not continuous. And that's the only way that this can happen if we're working on a closed interval. So when we come back in the next video, we're going to have a really important theorem that's going to ensure under certain conditions that an absolute max and an absolute min will exist.